Name is Osei-Frimpong, and you're watching The Black Athenians. I come to you at around 4 at Broderick Flanagan Studio in the Iron Triangle. That's 585 Vine Street in Athens, Georgia. And today, I have a few minds today. We're going to go over the university paving over slave graves and then how they dealt with that and how the activist community dealt with that and then how the university responded. We're going to go over that. But I'm a little bit of a few, I feel some sort of way because before I talk to you for 45 minutes, I teach 3 classes in a row. I lead discussion sections, and today's discussion section was where I have to kind of suggest, and it's always a little dicey, that maybe white women don't have it that badly. Now, usually last semester when I kind of massaged into the possibility that relative to all of the suck in the world, that white women don't have it that badly. And once you understand that, things become clear. I could kind of pace it. So I hit them with that in week 4 and then the fallout. And over the next 10 weeks, you can kind of see. Since I didn't design this syllabus and I'm teaching on somebody else's syllabus, it kind of came up in week 14, so I only have 2 weeks to deal with the fallout. So there might be a little bit of fallout, but the year of living dangerously. Because, we have, until we understand that it's possible that white women don't have it that badly in the United States because of the white womanhoodness, then a lot of our other political behavior stops making sense. So the good news is in the most contentious section, there were a few kids who said, this actually explains my mom very well. You see, she was sexually harassed in the 80s, horribly, at a slew of jobs, but now she's very conservative. And because the theories will be that it's internalized misogyny that creates conservative white women, or they're ignorant. But both assumes no, my mom is actually very smart. She's very smart, so she's not ignorant. I don't think it's internalized misogyny. But what you say makes sense, because what's happening is over the span of a life, it doesn't look that bad. It doesn't look that bad. What's being preserved is the ability to treat black people like garbage. So if you have to be a little bit sexually harassed in order for the enormous perks of whiteness, women, a lot of white women, not all of them, but a lot of white women take the deal. And this is how you can explain how 75% of white women in Georgia voted for Brian Kemp over Stacey Abrams. And that's not an accident. These women were not confused. It's that white womanhood isn't that bad relative to the other 35 groups in America. But the notion that could be the case, even with all of the sexual harassment stuff, on balance, it's still not bad. You do not want to walk into a job interview as me. You don't even want to work a job as me. Because most jobs that black people do entail treating black people like garbage, or being okay with a system that does, trash. So you don't want that, white lady. And let's be honest, sometimes you're going to want the option of either being a professional or being a stay-at-home mom. Whereas if you're black, you have the option of either being a professional or cleaning up stuff. Those are your options as an adult. I've had jobs as a college graduate that were both of those. Not even so much professional, kind of quasi-professional, mostly cleaning up stuff, or some variety of that, just because that's black life. You don't want that. You don't want that. There was no stay-at-home option for me. Not viably. Not really. So anyway, so we had to have that kind of conversation, and I'm still a little bit on edge because, 3 hours of having that conversation in a row people feel some sort of way. And the hardest part is not convincing, but just suggesting that sexual harassment isn't the worst thing that can happen, like with respect to the workforce. And that some women will reasonably take sexual harassment for the promotion. We have to be honest that the reason why it took Harvey Weinstein so long to get like publicly busted was that he came through on a lot of his promises. Melania Trump does not want a world where looks don't matter. And like I don't know, I'm not saying this is a just system or it's an appropriate system, but I'm saying that like once you understand this as the rational response that people want to preserve, that some of the first people who are going to fight against you equalizing the system are going to be white women. Because on balance, not every day, but on balance, the system works for them. And honestly, and these are the women who, and it was great because in class, someone was like, yeah, I guess it makes sense now why Donald Trump can say that he can grab women by the crotch and they'll still vote for him. It makes sense because there is a way, in some way, he was right. He was speaking the truth. Because if Donald Trump grabbed me by the crotch, I would be offended, but I'd also be looking at dollar signs and thinking, a billionaire just grabbed me by the crotch. I wonder how much that's worth. And if you're one of those people like me who thinks women are not that different from men, I'm sure a lot of women are offended and then start thinking of dollar signs because that's what I would do. And look, so that's where we are in a nation of 30 groups, white women pretending that like it's the worst thing in the world to be number 2, or that there isn't a difference between number 2 and number 28. is just a confusion for everyone. And there's a great student talking about, working at a golf course and the guys would tip big the girls for being pretty. And, they'd also be like horrible jerks and I don't know if they would be handsy or whatever. And then I said, look, if we got rid of that system and at the end of the day, all of the tips were kind of piled and spread around to the boys who did the caddies and all of that, how would that work? And the first thing she said was like, no, the girls would revolt instantly. No, they they worked for those tips. And they kept coming back for those tips. And this is the job they have when they're like 19 and 20 and 22. And when they're 25, they're married to one of these guys. So like, we have to just be honest that it's not just men versus women. And a lot of the people who are telling you that like women are in competition with men, no, a lot of white women and white men are on the same team. They're just in different positions. And you got a lot of point guards who want to play center or power forward, and a lot of power forwards who want to play center. But like they're all on the same team. They're just fighting over positions. And maybe starting order, but they're on the same team. And we have to figure out what that means if we're going to understand our politics. If we could try to not understand our politics and just pretend that it's men against women. Because how this works is that in general, throughout history, it is old people subordinating young people. And then you have men subordinating women. But all of that is overwhelmed by what Serenis and Preto call arbitrary set violence. That's just like hair color, race, some arbitrary thing that uses violence to police itself. It uses the gender and it uses the age in order to put like a larger hierarchy in play, right? So sure, you can say like everywhere across the world, women are put down. Yeah, but in some places, in great many places, that is overwhelmed and weaponized. So that like, don't expect me to cry for Marie Antoinette so much. And the people who are, and the moms who are harassed in the 80s, but then like vote conservative now, yeah, because they live in nice white flight suburbs and they want to keep the system that keeps black people away. And they see on balance, that means like, the occasional dealing with Chad or Brett Kavanaugh. Because they want Brett Kavanaugh to throw the black guy in jail and beat him with a phone call, right? So like people talk about equality, but white women don't want to be cops. They want to be able to call the cops. They don't want to be able to, they don't want 50-50 on the police force. They want to be able to call white men to do their dirty work. So, and it seems like I'm speaking universal statements. I'm just saying that if you want to explain why, for example, Wendy Davis lost Texas back in 2014, or why Hillary Clinton lost, 47% she gained 53% of white women votes, or why Kemp gained 75% of white women votes in Georgia. And you have to understand that wherever the racial hierarchy is needs to be policed more, the more white women are going to side with patriarchy against, black people. You just have to look at the logic of arbitrary set violence overwhelming gender violence. Thank you for that. And now we're going to go on to something a little bit different. Go ahead and hit the intro.
Yeah. Sound good to me. Never change the ways for the world or the government. If I was the president, then I would state facts. You leave it up to me, I paint the White House black and it can feature in your front.
Yeah, I took a look at chat. So you guys got a little bit. Look, I do this in front of white people. It's just we have to open up the possibility that may be the case that white women don't have it that bad. It's not that bad to be a white woman compared to just about everyone else in America. Even the sexual assault and harassment stuff, it's still not that bad. You don't want to go into a job interview as me. Because most jobs black people get usually involve treating black people like garbage. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're handling garbage. And we don't see a lot of white women doing that unless they're Eastern European immigrants. So there is that. And now let's talk about Baldwin. All right, so I'm at UGA right now. UGA had a building expansion. It turns out that when they were expanding the building, Baldwin Hall, they ran into some graves. And it reminded them that, when we built Baldwin Hall, we ran into some graves then. Turns out the graves are still there. They built it, back in the day, and they expanded it, and it turns out they were just more graves. And so at first they tried to tell people that these weren't slave graves. These were, graves of Europeans. And then they did any sort of test and said oh no, these look like these are black graves. Because also the place is the black graveyard's down here and the white graveyard's up here because we had segregated cemeteries. And so just everything made sense that these were black graves. So the university kind of dodged that and they picked their own expert and kind of did the minimal legal responsibility with respect to these graves. And so there's a great movie about this that was made by a guy named Joe Levine. Joe Levine is an asset to the community. A white guy, but understands black people. And it doesn't take much to understand black people. All you have to do is go to school with us a little bit. Because we all know most people, I think, know white people who get it without making it a job, without it being that big of a deal. Because they went to school with black people, so they're just used to black people. So you can immediately tell a white guy who's used to black people, so it's just cool. It's just easy. Joe Levine is that white guy who's used to black people, so it's just easy. Joe's great. He's a documentary filmmaker. He's this is a great project, to which, most people in the black community in Athens said, it is a great project. And so he, put together some capital and put together some time, and he made a documentary. It's called Below Baldwin. It's a 56-minute documentary. It's wonderful. So I'm grateful for Joe for doing it. I'm grateful for all the people who are in it. And it pretty much talks about the extravagance that the university went to ignore the fact of its racial legacy. And if you're a big school, if you're a big institution in the South and you've been around for a while, like, you have profited off of black labor. Like, there weren't white people making these bricks. Like, there were slaves around, and there were still bills of sales of slaves that were leased in order to build university buildings. So Georgia was built by slaves, like literally built by slaves. And there's a good reason to believe that many of those remains of the slaves were just paved over when University of Georgia wanted to expand. There's still a great discrepancy in how black workers at the University of Georgia are slotted and paid. For example, just for the maintenance workers who are 44% black, the median salary is like $24,000. And for the administrator, the median salary is about $144,000. When I first moved to Athens, I thought nobody in Georgia got paid, or nobody in Athens, Georgia got paid. It turns out just black people don't get paid. A lot of money is being made by the University of Georgia in Athens. It just doesn't go to too many black hands. And the black hands it does go to are paid as kind of Negro control to handle all of the other black people in town. So that's the situation we're in at the University of Georgia. We tried to expand Baldwin Hall. We unearthed some slave remains, and then we asked all of the black people we could buy to kind of get us off. So they paid black people, and then the university denied this, but money changed hands and favors changed hands. And there are a lot of, what few black administrators they had were put on the job of allowing what the white administrators really wanted, which is just to like build around the memorial or on top of it with like put a little statue that doesn't mention the word slaves. And you got to understand, and this is one thing that people don't understand about how white supremacy works. It works also through ideas. It's not enough to just have guns. You need scientific racism. You need social scientists and biological scientists who will say that who will testify. There's this guy, Travis, can't remember his last name, but with the Pioneer Fund. So if you just put in Pioneer Fund and Travis, you'll find him, who will testify that University of Georgia faculty member will testify that black people are inferior genetically, and here's all the science that testifies to that. We have law school professors who did the same thing about separate versus equal being fantastic and blah, 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 blah. And then you have historians who will just like omit all of the degradation that white America has like put onto black people and then like repaint black people as being happy. This guy, E. Merton Coulter, another University of Georgia professor. These guys are paid by University of Georgia in order to promote white supremacy. You got Mildred Rutherford, who has a hall there. And there pretty much aren't enough bad things you can say about Mildred Rutherford. She was awful. She probably did more to sustain the racial hierarchy than all of the people on Stone Mountain right now. All the Confederate generals. So the university was actually important in the project of sustaining white supremacy, because you need guns, but you also need ideas, and you need lawyers, and you need white supremacists at every level of the food chain. And the University of Georgia produced white supremacists at every level of the food chain. Gladly. So it's not just enough to say university presidents had slaves, and then like university students would bring their slaves with them. But no, it's that and more. Like the university produced the ideology that legitimized racial degradation. So that's what's at stake. And so we need to kind of cop to that and deal with that legacy, because there's still, as we created a lot of generational white wealth at the University of Georgia, and we created a lot of generational white poverty, or black poverty at the University of Georgia. And so what does that mean to cop to that? They put a statue, a plaque, a stone plaque, monument, I guess, but like it didn't have people. See, white monuments involve people. They have faces and stuff. Okay. This monument has got some words on it. None of those words are slaves or enslaved. And so a group of organizers who are UGA students and Athens residents came through and wrote the president a letter, right? They delivered this letter. It's actually, I think it's a fine letter. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to read the letter, and and then tell you what they did that was very good, because they did this better than most letters. Okay. We, the undersigned members of the Athens community, including UGA staff, faculty and students, Athens organizations, elected officials, community stakeholders, write with deep frustration over your administration's grossly inadequate response to collective requests that UGA recognize and redress its legacy of slavery in concrete ways. Very good. Concrete ways. And I do not mean a concrete monument. I mean, usually I want money changing hands.
I was about to say, they just going to build more onto the water monument. It's very pretty. It's very pretty. Yeah. It's not reflective of the issue. It's supposedly. Yeah, it is art. Like
it's art. Which means that you need like a translator to figure out what it means, because it's art.
Oh, the word like play is impressive.
Yeah, impressive. You need
I've never seen someone try to dodge calling people slaves so hard in my life. Like, it was literally like the memory of these unknown people who could have been slaves.
Wow.
Now, we have right beside that, the cemetery where we know all the nice white people are buried.
Yeah. On the hill.
Yeah, on the hill.
But like, we know how this works and how it's always worked. We're supposed to pretend that it didn't work this way in this case. But
the history department went, hold on. That's not an accurate, like, when your history department says that's not historically accurate.
No, yeah. We go to a different history department. That's what Morehead did. He's like, so the historians seem to have ideas of their own. So we're going to find, I did put an RFP out for a different historical society who take my money to say that we don't know. All right, so let me finish with this letter. When the most recent remains of enslaved people were uncovered during the Baldwin Hall expansion. This is the most recent time, because remember, the first time we built Baldwin Hall, we ran into some slave bodies, remains, and
didn't bother to look for anymore.
Didn't bother to look anymore. So we should be surprised when we do the expansion that like
they're more.
Yeah,
I don't know who was surprised by that.
I do not know. A lot of people get paid to act surprised by a lot of things. I never know who's actually surprised. Yeah. I'm shocked. Woo!
I can't. On the University of Georgia's campus,
slaves.
But we have Mildred Rutherford. We have a hall named after Mildred Rutherford.
She's awful. All right, so. Uncovered during the Baldwin expansion in Project 2015, we in the Athens community and at the University of Georgia were presented with a significant opportunity to reflect on the university's legacy of slavery set in plain. We had a significant opportunity, this is good, to reflect on the university's legacy of slavery, set a plan for reparations, and heal collectively. We had an opportunity. We were brought to a crisis. We could not ignore these bones. We had to deal with them. We just dealt with them the wrong way. Because sometimes day-to-day stuff, when you've just normalized treating black people like garbage, you kind of don't have to deal with it. But then, this is like nature's own direct action. Like, it forces you to a crisis. You got to deal with it.
Well, they dealt with it.
This was a sit-in from the grave. This was a sit-in from beyond.
And I was there when they went to protest. Right. Like, the protesters were non-disruptive, but they were very visible. Like they weren't playing about their message.
No, we want more than a monument.
Yeah.
We want in concrete ways.
Watching President Morehead dismiss them
was horrible. We're going to go through that. Dismiss them. And So over 3 years later, it sends us to look back and see that instead of taking advantage of this opportunity, your administration restricted input from the black community, resisted meaningful proposals for repair, and neglected the university's history of slavery. And, it's not that hard to find input from the black community. Some people say, we couldn't find anybody. When you got to ignore the head of the NAACP, you're doing work. You got to go around. We couldn't find any black leader where the head of the NAACP is like, I have something to say. So when you got to say, we couldn't find any black people to speak to, and Alvin Sheets is like, I have ideas about this. What? Yeah. So it's not that you just couldn't find. You didn't like the Negro
that you found.
Just admit it. The ones who were just around. You wanted a different Negro.
I'm sorry.
Because the ones that were just around had things you didn't want to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's very accurate. The university doesn't pay attention to the fact that in my time in the city, which has been more than 25 years. They really don't give back to the city. And when they do it under such strict policy.
They do like their strings.
Oh, yeah. No, free buses. We can't do free buses because UGA threatened to take away $10 million. Like,
Right.
so, I mean, it's not like it's an agency. I was thinking they have their horticulture and agriculture
Yes.
could be supplying vegetables to all the nonprofits that we have in town
We
that
do have a
feed
lot of
people.
nonprofits. We do have a lot of nonprofits.
They don't do that.
Yeah, and honestly, we could just pay black people to work good jobs.
We can go straight to the source with that.
Yeah, we can because right now there's still kind of a two-tier hiring system where black people are shunted to maintenance work, where white people are shunted to like plumbing and HVAC and stuff like that. So the history. So we could have actually addressed this in words. When it was announced that the remains would belong to people of African descent, many black members of the community went to a grieving period. Fred Smith Sr. and other members, because you got to understand that Athens, I'm a transplant, but a lot of people have been here since our people were in chains. Yeah. There are a good number of Athens people who've been
Yeah, they're
the whole
definitely
time.
families. I mean, they're families that everyone. That's the other thing about not being able to find black people.
Right.
When they need a good photo op, they can find us
It's
real well.
not that hard to find black people. Like Georgia is the third black, and the Athens black people have been a while or like around. And there are families who've been here for generations within 10 miles. Generations, like yeah. So that happened. So instead, your administration facilitated a secret closed reburial. Linda Davis requested that the remains be reburied in a historically black cemetery with their descendants. Instead, your administration reburied them in a Coney Hill, a historically white cemetery with a record of abusing black graves. Because it's not like the white people around there were benign. All right, so Alvin Sheets requested that Alvin Sheets, this is the president of the NAACP, requested that the university grant reparational scholarships for descendants of slaves that worked at UGA and for black Athenian high school students. I think that's a big one. We need to do better. Black.
As someone who graduated that, like
2%.
that would make a big
1%.
difference.
That would make a huge difference generationally. He responded by saying that the university does not. Yeah, wow. So this is his go-to line because it comes into his response letter. You responded by saying that the university does enough for black students. UGA, I want to say 6%.
I think it's 6%. Yeah, 6%.
6 or 7%. And then black males is like 1.5%. Black males with that. Oh
yeah, that's international.
6%. 6% with international students. But a lot of the black people you find at UGA have last names like mine and have first names like Kwesi.
And then you take out the student athletes and it's like 1 or 2%.
Yeah. Then you take out the people who like carry balls and run very quickly.
What percentage of those people? Yeah, if we look at that number,
then it's disproportionately female too. So we're talking about black guys like Matthew. It's like, I don't know, not too many.
No, Matthew's breed.
the one.
Yeah,
No, Matthew's like, so like it's a handful. It's 6%, including all of the athletes but you take out the athletes at the third. You take out the Africans at probably another third.
As someone who grew up here and feels that he comfortably represents what most of the black community here has experienced, you don't see me on that campus. You don't see any of me's on that campus.
But they're at the high school. They're around all the public schools because we've been here since the beginning. Athens was founded, I think, 50% black. We'll see how that goes in the next 25 years. So you responded by saying denial of these thoughtful requests, because that is a thoughtful request, displays a deep and troubling disregard for the community that was most impacted by the reburial. Faculty and students experienced administrative pushbacks for similar requests. UGA faculty proposed a center on slavery to study, recognize, and exhibit the university's history of slavery. That would be excellent. That would be excellent. A center on slavery. We have a center on a lot of things in these United States. A center on slavery would be excellent. I want a center on white. I want to run a center on white people. I want a center on white supremacy. I want a center on white supremacy. It would be fantastic. I would do an excellent job. Center on white supremacy run by me. That might be my ask. If people are preparing the settlement for my impending civil suit, I know university administrators watch this, that might be on the list I'd be open to. We could talk about that because I'm in it for the scholarship. There's going to be also money to fund the staff for that center. So like they're going to be zeros, but like that's kind of, if the university wants to lead a center on white supremacy and put me on the head of it, I would be excellent at that job. You don't have Nazis being the center of the
Holocaust Museum.
No. So you need me at the head of the center on white supremacy, and it would be Wonderful. Exquisite. I would do the university proud.
I actually met, I won't say where I was for this person's safety. I met one of your fans.
One of my fans?
On campus.
On campus. I have fans on campus. They always come at me at night.
So let me tell you what she said.
What?
She pointed out that apparently you seem to make the head of communications head explode.
Oh, I do?
That was the exact word she used.
Yeah. The head of communication is bad at his or her job. And
Some people wonder how they still have it.
Some people
Vocally wonder.
Some people wonder, like, because sometimes they communicate things. Well, I feel like Morehead wrote this letter himself, and we're going to talk about that. And I feel like
Yeah, but if the head of communications let that letter out,
that's his job too. Someone, yeah. All right,
you should tell your boss when he's about to look bad.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to talk about that, but like, yeah. So I guess the head of communications has some words about me. I suspect one of them might be the national word. But he gets paid a lot of words, so like he can afford
He can afford therapy if you're stressing him.
Yeah. All right. So what's going on here? So faculty and students experience administrative pushbacks for a similar request. UGA faculty proposed a center on slavery to study and recognize the exhibit and the university's history of slavery. Good. Vice President of Research, David Lee, said that it was not relevant and that it was beyond the scope of resources. Man, I'm going to do a whole show on things we study that we don't need to. Woof. That's more important than black people.
The botanical gardens where we grow lots of samples for seeds. So that they
What's the place? What's the hall next to Lay Center?
Listen.
We'll just take that up. The hall next to there's the Lay Center, and then it's an art gallery. What's it?
Oh, that giant plantation?
Yeah, well, not the giant. Those look like a plant. I never thought of it that way.
Giant plantation. Yes, the plantation house.
No, the one Broderick just had a
Linden House.
Give me the Linden House to make it. It'll be better. We can have art other places. I'm a fan of art. I'm an artist myself.
I've worked with the Linden House. I know it used to be just that house and how much money we put into expanding it. We got resources.
We got resources. Give me the Linden House. I will make it an excellent center on white supremacy, adjunct to the center on slavery, because I want them to be different. But like, I want to be able to talk to them. We can share faculty. There could be affiliates.
You know what we don't need?
What do we don't need?
A new courthouse.
So the University of the City could do it instead of the university.
Yeah,
admit that they're in the courthouse. And don't talk to me about stadiums or like what I could do with the Final Four money with respect to football. Anyway, we got resources. Beyond the resources, we just make choices about what resources we spend where. So the UGA Student Government Association passed a resolution to call for a monument on North Campus dedicated to all enslaved peoples held and employed by the University of Georgia. That is great. That sounds like a good.
That's not what we got.
No, we got a little monument on the corner. You gotta find it.
Yeah,
like you gotta know where to go.
I would have thought more of their attempt, which
isn't
a lot.
The bell.
I wanted it in the center of that entryway.
No,
you can't go into Baldwin Hall without seeing that.
Seeing that without reading it and being moved.
No, it's on the corner. In a grassy knoll on a hill.
So all of what Sin said was true. All right, so UGA administrators and advisors pressured student leaders not to pass it. Good. See, people think I'm making things up until they see the ugly side of administration. And like some of those administrators and advisors who did the pressuring are going to be black. So,
I think one of the things I have taken most from my experience with you is how not to allow myself to be weaponized against other black people.
Right.
Like that's an important. I think that's a really
that's
important.
One thing white people will pay black people to do.
Oh yeah.
Like we'll get real wages for that.
Hold on, you mean the group that tried to do it to me would have paid? They didn't even write me a check.
Yeah, no. That's a growth industry in black people. Like talk to Candace Owens, talk to no small number of black people who work at the university and administrative level. I can name names, but I don't feel like doing that now. Plus, I always go after black people last. So let me take out these white people first. Despite your administration's continued efforts to literally and figuratively bury, this is a well-written letter. Did Amani write this?
Yeah, it might be a joke.
I'm about to say Amani and Joe. You can always tell Amani and Joe's handwork.
This is a. And Jimena. This is a. I just read the demands because I go right to the meat. But even though the preamble is not bad,
and if you
and honestly, since I do a lot of politics, I think gosh, she should have just gotten me to write this letter. You need me to write this. This is put.
And if you guys don't remember, Amani Scott Blackwell has hosted.
Oh yeah.
One of the Black Athenian shows, or two of them, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
she's done two.
Yeah, she knows her way around.
You should go back and look at her stuff. Like, she's solid.
No. Go Amani. Amani, you need to just apply to the program because I would like to have you in, especially if they kick me out. So, black people were once enslaved to cook, clean, and maintain the University of Georgia for no wages. Now black people cook, clean, and maintain the university for poverty wages. This is a good letter. Like I said, that was like right symmetry. Nice work. The truth of this lasting legacy is distorted on campus, while over 20 slave owners and segregationists are honored with buildings. And like you could just name them. Like the name goes on. The documentary goes through a few, and then it just keeps going through more.
Oh, I'm gonna have to get a copy of that list because I've been trying to find out.
Yeah. Former workers like Lucius Hosley, Dick Carey, Davy Hall, and Sam Watkins, to name a few, are invisible on campus. But Mildred Rutherford has her own hall. All right.
And a street.
All right. Only a thorough accounting. Yeah, this is the right way to do it. Only a thorough accounting. We need a Truth and Reconciliation Summit set up by me or the people who wrote this letter, because they could do the job too, and I have other jobs to do. Only a thorough accounting of UGA's participation in the institution of slavery and Concrete Act and Jim Crow terrorism. Because we create a lot of Jim Crow terrorists and segregationists too. And concrete action to repair the ongoing damage caused by slavery can begin to make our community whole. That is true. It is past time for your administration to act on the request of its community and use its institutional power as Georgia's flagship university to make positive social change in our city. This might be, I'm going to send this letter out. By the way, tweet this letter. I'm going to put a copy to this letter in the comments, in the info. In the info of this video, and send this letter out to your people, because this is what student activism in a written page actually looks like. This is a well put together letter.
One of the things I want to point about is that the young lady who wrote that is 22 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When everyone talks about how millennials aren't doing any.
Yeah, no, she did it. And she works 3 other jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, she carries stuff and waits table. This letter is better than one, Morehead's letter that I'm about to read. And 2, I think any letter I've read from the communication staff that's come out of the University of Georgia. So nice work, just on structuring a well put together letter. I couldn't have done anything better. So I'm just grateful. I've read tenured professors who don't write this clearly and on point. All right. So if we call on UGA to fund and celebrate efforts to recognize we call on UGA to fund and celebrate efforts to recognize and redress the full history in 3 specific ways. Good. Don't let them weasel out. To get them on, to go for the body. You just 3 specific ways. No more poetry. Talking in prose and hard English. Issue a public statement taking responsibility for UGA's role in white supremacy and fully fund the faculty's proposed Center on Slavery as a first step toward researching and telling the whole story of UGA's role in slavery and black oppression, a legacy which persists to this day. Perfect first demand. 2, guarantee tuition, all fees included, scholarships for descendants of the enslaved people who worked on UGA's campus and for every African-American student who graduates from a public high school in Athens as a first step towards redressing the long-standing reparational debt that UGA owes to the African-American community and the local public schools in Athens. This I would have put with a pipeline. I don't know. This is a little bit more complicated. Still, I like how specific it is, but it's not boilerplate necessarily. 3, and this is what some kids at Yale did, and this is what really keyed in on me, that I really thought this was a better put together letter. Implement wages of at least $15 an hour for all full-time and part-time temporary UGA employees as a first step towards sufficiently supporting workers, especially black workers who are disproportionately underpaid at UGA. Oh,
that's perfect.
That's perfect.
That is a perfect third demand.
That is a perfect third demand.
And very doable.
And very doable. We pay administrators. We make buildings. You know what? We put bonds out for other things. First of all, if you pay black people not just slave wages, but real wages in Athens, the money stays in Athens.
Yeah, because we don't shop outside of the county.
It's good for the county. This is just good public policy. So we should get next man commission meeting. I might send Mariah Parker a message because this would increase wages in the county because the hospitals would have to match and would increase the money circulating in the county because right now white people just take that money to Oconee,
Oglethorpe.
the Oglethorpe,
funny you mentioned the mayor and commissioners.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused as to why our mayor didn't feel like he should sign this and actually put out a statement saying he wasn't going to in the flagpole.
Yeah, our mayor is a big chicken. Our progressive mayor.
He's not
a dumb guy either. He knows all the dirty. He just doesn't.
Well, my question is always, where's the university gonna go? What they gonna do? Pack up and leave?
Exactly. So here's the deal. One good thing about strong arming an institution like the university or the two hospitals we have in town is they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like other businesses will say, well, you'll scare away business. No, you're not gonna scare away nothing. University is not going to pack up and leave. It's been here for a few hundred years. It's not going anywhere.
It ain't giving that property back.
It's not giving the property back. It's got some nice land, got some nice building. No, it's not going anywhere.
64% of the county. It owns 64%
of the county. And it could take some heat. It could take a lot of heat. And this goes for all major institutions. The ones that can move might move, but ones like university, they aren't going to move. So you can give it to them. Make them pay your people.
They're a captive audience.
Yeah. Make them pay your people. As the largest employer in Athens and the flagship university in Georgia, UGA sets a standard for wages across the community and the state. The current inadequate wages fuel poverty in Athens. That's true. Black communities and UGA must do more to address this massive racial wealth gap. Like I said, when I first moved to Athens, I thought nobody got paid. I was like, well, this is just living in the South. Nobody makes money. And then I saw people who get paid. A lot of people at this university get paid. They're just not black. Yeah. And the black people who get paid at the university, their job almost to a one is to control black poverty.
Yeah.
That is the only job the university pays black people to do.
They're the new overseers.
They're the new overseers, new house Negroes. All right, so these demands chart a course. I like that. Chart a course for UGA to confront and take responsibility for its complicity in slavery and the enduring harm it inflicts on black community members, staff, faculty, and students today. That's the thing about universities. They don't die like people do. So it was born and was weaned and sustained itself through slavery and black degradation and terrorism. It's not dead. The generational wealth that it produces still goes to white families, and generational poverty still sustains in black communities. So the university is doesn't die like people do. And we know that because it actually gains money when it's employed. The university is a weird institution. It actually gains money when its alumni die.
Yeah.
It grows. Its endowment actually grows when alumni die. So it actually gains. So white slave
and let's be clear.
Appreciating, yeah.
Its foundation is built on slavery and the lack of value in black lives.
Right.
Not recognizing that as part of your foundation says that is a cracked, faulty foundation.
And the beginning of the endowment, No, it's
The suggestion there from the staff is amazing to begin to fix that crack in its foundation.
It's a crack in your foundation. I mean, you got black work creating white wealth.
And unfortunately, people being squeezed by that foundation's crack are black people.
Black people, yeah.
We're the ones caught in that tight space because they're paying everybody else great.
I know that. I know. White people make money at the university. A lot of people make money at the university. So we, the undersigned, stand united in these demands until they are met, and we will continue to fight until we achieve full recognition and redress for this legacy of harm. Hey, I didn't. Do you have a list of the people who?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, good. Do you mind just reading them into the microphone?
You have the Athens and NAACP. You have the Economic Justice Coalition. You have Athens AADM, You have Athens for Everyone, United Campus for Workers, Dignagde Immigrante in Athens, the YDSA, Undocumented Student Alliance, Unite for Reproductive and Gender Equality, UGA chapter, Students for Justice in Palestine, UGA chapter, and then for public officials, you have Mariah Parker, Melissa Link, Tim Denson, Lakeisha Grant, and Tawana Maddox.
Tawana
Maddox, yeah.
By the way, all of those officials I endorsed. So, I was on the right side of history with respect to that. And that makes me feel somewhat kind of good. And endorsed against opposition. And some of the opposition was in the black community. So I just happened to pick all of not only the winners, I picked the right winners. Also, it's nice to see what is the immigrant group?
There's
undocumented.
Yeah, the undocumented and the Dignate Immigrante.
I appreciate that the undocumented and the Dignate Immigrante signed on to this because, we got things to work out between immigrant communities and descendants of slaves. So thank you for standing up. I see you. Thank you. You did your job, and I appreciate you doing your job. Yes. And there was one more name that was kind of... who else was there? Justice for Palestine. Thank you. I see you too. Justice for Palestine, you don't have to do that. But you did because it's the right thing to do. And so I'm going to try to do the right thing to do by you because it's the right thing, but also as a gratitude for you doing it. So nice work. That was a well put together letter. The letter, I'm going to put a copy in the comments of the video. No, I'm going to put Morehead's response. Morehead's the president of the United States.
Well, he may seem like they have a lot in common. That was a Freudian slip. He's the president of the University of Georgia.
He's the president. Gerald Morehead is the president of the University of Georgia. Makes $800K a year.
Yeah, he makes more than the president.
Well,
let's be clear.
He might make more than I will in my life. In 1 year, yeah.
800,000. You're making yourself unemployable. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's true. He made more writing this letter. No, and this letter is so dicey. I think he might have written it himself. All right, so I suspect this from the heart because I can't imagine anybody who paid to. Anyway,
you hoping no one got paid to write that?
I'm going to tell you the truth about. I'm gonna read the man's words. So while I'm disappointed, are we good?
Yeah, just give me a second to pull it up.
All right. So I'm going to read the man's words, and Matthew's going to get the text. While I'm disappointed, I'm not surprised by the wildly inaccurate claims made in the letter submitted to my office yesterday by a small group of local activists. There was 100,000 people in this town.
The organizations represented on that list.
The organizations represented on that list are a lot of them. So there's that. The University of Georgia, unless you wanted all of them to come to your office. I suspect you wanted the other thing.
Maybe that's it. Maybe he wants all of us to show up at his office.
I can arrange that. The University of Georgia handled the Baldwin matter appropriately, and our response went far beyond what is required by law. I feed my slaves.
The moment you say required by law, you have defaulted to how many things were done legally?
Yeah, what more do you want?
Slavery was legal.
No, I did more than was legal. I treated my slaves good.
Yeah.
I gave them more meals. I let them take a day off once they had babies. I didn't have to do that. That's the law. I went beyond the law.
And when you look at what he did, if that's beyond the law,
no,
that's another issue to
address. Laws for everything.
Well, I agree though, but if a leader of a major institution in this state is going to default to the law, and that managed to be more than the law requires, that's another problem.
I don't know why the bar is so low.
Well, you do know why the bar is so low.
I know why the bar is so low, and I assume I'm going to draw a parallel. That you're going to have to draw your own parallel. I got a buddy who's like, look, it may be the case that for no reason biological, black guys are better in bed. And she's a professional therapy, so but for no reason biologically, all about white entitlements. That black guys might be better in bed. Nothing to do. They're just less jerks in general, and that's going to come out in all other things, including the bedroom.
Well, because we don't have the money to just wave that as the
Yeah,
attractor.
yeah.
We have to actually have great personalities and things like that.
We gotta put some thought and work into it, and care about other people's needs. So yeah. So I'm just gonna take that to like just keep that in mind when you think about the quality of person.
The righteous indignation in
well,
that.
just think about the kind of person who would take that advantage. I didn't rape her because she consented by law.
Yeah, like
What do you mean she consented by law?
I did more than the law requires of me.
More than law required of me in our intimate relations.
Is the president of the university's action of doing more than the law required of me the standard we want?
Is that the more than law required of me is the standard we want for anything that matters? Anything that matters. Is that really like?
I mean,
I'm not going to sue you for treating the descendants of slaves poorly. Like, actually, I'm not. So I don't know. For a crime, I'd sue you civilly. Maybe differently, but like more than the law requires is a low standard for like most things in law. Like if you're teaching people, black people and white people, if you're teaching your kid to do more than the law required as a standard of ethics, like you're a bad parent.
Yeah, no.
Like creating a terrorist who will do more than the law, who will do just more than law required.
Maybe.
And feel like they're doing you a favor when they do it.
I mean, I bet that kid at the Lincoln Memorial facing the Native American veteran would say, "Well, I did
more than law
more
required."
required."
Like, if this is the window into white parenting, we don't create the best people. Because, more than the law required is never the appropriate standard for anything that matters.
And we've seen this throughout history. I mean,
First of all, how do you take that standard in to be a legislator? Like, we're a democracy, which means that we're the kind of people who make laws. So, like you shouldn't be...
it's frustrating.
Many problems. Like, there's the same communication.
So many problematic statements in that letter.
I don't know. People. You pay good money to people like, to teach you how to read and write. And like you need the people who wrote this letter know what they're doing. The people who wrote this one are all right, so let me restate for the record that once the remains were discovered in the construction site on November 15th, we immediately contacted the appropriate authorities. Now, okay, so the appropriate authorities are the authorities that you decide are appropriate. So you pretty much got the scholars we wanted. Not as opposed to the scholars who were on the building. Like we picked the scholars we wanted. The scholars...
Let's not pretend like there were not scholars internally in the university expressing. Faculty sent them a letter saying what they thought was appropriate.
Yeah, but so we went to the States. We went to the state's archaeologist's office. So our local archaeologists, because we actually have archaeologists who teach archaeology on CAF, we wanted the ones who were appointed by the Republican legislature and government. Because the ones we have here, who got here by like writing and publishing on this stuff. No. So that's like going, okay, so I went to HUD. Instead of going to the person, I have a housing and urban planning question. So instead of going to the housing and urban planning faculty, I went to Ben Carson.
Oh, you mean like when we put him in charge of housing?
Yeah, we put the guys. I went to the guy we put in charge of housing because he shares our politics, not the people who actually study housing.
Yeah.
That's what Morehead says. Morehead saying, I went to the state archaeologist's office in every step of the process, including the selection of Oconee Hill Cemetery as a requirement. We went to a bunch of white supremacist Republicans who were put in place because they got along with the white supremacist Republican government, as opposed to like the academics who study this.
And got their permission to drop their bodies in a hole in a cemetery that doesn't have the best history.
We hired an external archaeological consultant to perform the work in an appropriate manner. We also sponsored faculty research to learn more about the individuals whose remains were discovered, and then ignored all their research. And the external archaeological consultant. Who picked them?
I want them to release the research.
Could mean all sorts of things. I could be an external archaeological consultant.
I want to see all the research.
I want to see all the research. Because the people who have seen, the faculty people who have seen all the research don't like it.
Yeah.
So That's like saying we did sex education. We hired folks focus on the family to come in and so all right. So this is Morehead talking, right? We held a respectful memorial service for the community in March 2017, during which a prominent federal judge, a local minister, provided heartfelt remarks of remembrance. Ah, that's true.
That was true.
That's true. Yeah, you found a local
I was
minister and a prominent federal judge. Like,
Let me also point out that
I could find a local minister who will say a lot of things.
they're a dime a dozen.
Like, I found a black minister who will tell me what I want to hear. Is
Yeah.
that the hardest thing?
I mean,
I found a black minister who will tell me what I want to hear.
yeah, that never happens.
But never.
I've never met a minister.
met-
I've never met a minister that wouldn't just tell you. That would tell you the truth no matter what. Never happened.
No.
He's not worried about how he's going to eat.
Like, not one that was selected by the NAACP. No, I found my own black minister who would tell me.
You couldn't find black people before.
He was nice
but
enough
in
to
this
even
moment,
he was nice enough to even let me vet his remarks.
yes.
Good one. I found me a good one. All right, so we commemorated the gravesite with a granite marker and provided funding to ensure its permanent maintenance. Once again, like
The gravesite, they built over the gravesite.
Well,
They put it on the grounds, sort of close off at a corner. Actually, it's technically in the opposite corner of where those bodies were found.
it's a monument. It's art. I wanted a person, maybe a family, a worker. I wanted
It's not
something
gonna have
that's sort of
running-
like, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
art. It needs something that didn't need an interpreter. So in 2018, and who commissioned the art? I want to know more. Now I think about it.
You want to know if it was with the art? Who was the artist?
Who was the artist who commissioned them?
That's a real
like, because that's money changing hand. That would have been a perfect time to make sure that like it was someone black. I know artists who could have designed it. Wow, I never thought of that.
A black granite company donated.
Donated.
No, we shouldn't be donating anything. No.
So,
A
I've
black-
also
she said, by the way, if you don't have a microphone, someone said a black granite company donated. Because we are next to Oglethorpe County, like the granite capital of the world.
So-
there must be like some black people who own granite somewhere in the...
we donated it. Interesting
We should
enough,
have donated anything. We should have been paid 300%.
and the university has a history among small black businesses of being known for not paying their bills.
Right? No,
So
we should.
they donate, and they're not. and
Well, yeah, that shouldn't have had to be donated. That should have been like marked up.
so they didn't even pay for it.
Oof. All right, so I commissioned a broad task force of community leaders led by Dr. Michelle Cook, UGA's Vice Provost for Diversity and Inclusion and Strategic University Initiatives. These are like, led by...
Strategic is the important word
I
there.
don't know. Like, I said before that the only black people the university hires, their job is to control black people. I don't know Michelle Cook.
Her title.
Her title says her job is to control.
Strategic.
All right, so diversity and inclusion and strategic university initiatives. How do I hire black people without picking too many
Problematic
taking
ones.
off white people? That's strategy. So
I mean, they wrote it in her job description.
it
I
in
don't
her
know why
job
anyone should be
description. I don't
surprised that we're upset about it.
I don't know Michelle Cook personally. I'm sure she's what she is. Like, this is what you hire people to do. Like, everybody else I know, Michelle Obama had this position for University of Chicago hospitals.
Oh.
Yep.
If only we'd known that when all that
I really
hope
did. No,
was.
no.
I didn't. Okay, let me phrase that. Well, actually, I didn't.
The job is Negro management. The job, I'm the vice president in charge of Negro management because there are a lot of them, and someone needs to manage them. So you'll pay me a lot of money so that you don't have to pay them too much. That's the job. I don't know if that's how Michelle Cook does the job. I do suspect that's how the hiring committee who picked Michelle Cook.
That's what they were looking for.
That's what they were looking for. And those are just facts.
And I'm curious about what that hiring committee looked like.
I don't.
A diversity.
Like if you want a small hiring committee of people who will pick the kind of people who will manage black people, you can find them, and then maybe even they'll be black. All right. So there's this great Bobby Wright. Dr. Bobby Wright's wonderful. He's got some lectures on YouTube. He's a doctor, University of Chicago degree. He had an institute in Chicago. He's like, look, you put me in charge of a black school. This is what's going to happen. Percentage of the black students are just going to go home. Like, I'm just going to have to send them home for reasons. Second, half the black faculty are they're going to have to go because that's a problem. Third, all the black administrators are going to go. All the black administrators. This is Bobby Wright. Bobby Wright is a very smart guy. He's like, all the black administrators are going to have to go. So I'll be honest, like, I don't trust any of the black administrators at the University of Georgia. I don't trust any of them.
No.
For reasons.
Like I said, I worked in HR. If I was an associate, I wouldn't have trusted
I
me.
wouldn't trust, I don't trust any of the black administrators. That's
nope.
fine. They get paid to be untrustworthy. They get paid good money.
Yeah.
So you can be like, oh, that Army guy in his private YouTube channel off campus besmirched who I am. And to which I said, well, not personally. It's just like the institution created a place. They needed a Negro management-sized hole to fill, and you just happen to be in that place. Whether that's how you're doing the job, I don't know. But that's what. Yes.
Disparaging character. If Morehead did, well, he let it be released under his name.
Yeah, no.
I think that's enough disparaging character. Like, he disparaged himself.
No, and I don't have any problem. No. He's a public figure. I can say what I want to say on my private YouTube channel, away from campus.
Calm down, President.
Yeah. Go ahead, retaliate. Actually, I do not give consent to any retaliation. I'll take any retaliation on my job as a retaliation on my job because I'm very good at my job.
I was like, don't. No, you can't tell him that.
Yeah.
They'll certainly love your show.
Yeah. All right, so good. I do not give consent for any retaliation. All right, so the 18 members of this task force carefully considered all aspects of the tribute. See, this isn't just like you don't talk like that if you think. Like all aspects. I haven't even considered all aspects
of the truth.
Like that's just so much just mediocre white guys just like who thinks they like I'm a systematic philosopher and I don't think I think of all aspects of a situation. Like I wouldn't think that. I would think the ones we thought carefully and this is the best we could come up with. Like this is obviously you didn't think of all aspects because like there are faculty members who said like you're not contributing my aspects. Like
oh no. They considered them and tossed them right out the window.
Who thinks they have that kind of capacious ability? Like, I have complete confidence that we considered all aspects. Like, I don't.
Privilege is a crazy thing. It's like a drug that makes you crazy.
You're like, oh, you turn. Like, literally, you're suggesting you have a kinship with a god.
Yeah.
With an omniscient presence. Like, no, you considered the aspects you considered. To the best of your ability, which is admirable. But you're saying you consider
that would have been more honest.
Yeah. All right. So in November 2018, we dedicated this beautiful monument. No, he thinks it's beautiful. That's fine. In front of Baldwin Hall with a granite marker, which reads in part, "The University of Georgia recognizes the contribution of these and other enslaved individuals and honors their legacy."
I'm going to have to look at that again because I don't remember that being the wording.
No, that reads in part like enslaved. It doesn't say the word slaves. It says enslaved individuals. It is what it is. Since its dedication, it doesn't say we had slaves. But everybody else can use the word slaves. But they are enslaved individuals. Well, you know. Okay. So what if it is what it is? But all right, so if I say I recognize you to be the king of the world, Sin.
Yes.
I recognize you to be the king of the world.
This is a bad idea.
No. I can say I recognize you. I'm not going to actually like give you any money or pay taxes or give you like the writ or any power that goes with king. But I will say that I recognize you. So what does recognition mean?
Nothing.
It means
I see you.
I see you. I'm still going to set the terms for our relationship.
I see you. I'm writing checks over here still, though.
Yeah. So the University of Georgia recognizes the contributions of these and other enslaved individuals and honors their legacy. No, if you recognize the contribution, it would. This is what recognition looks like. It's like, oh, we did harm to you. Let me get my checkbook and like open up not just like new money for fundraising, but like actually like move some money around. I'm gonna.
How about you
recognizing me? I'm gonna have to fire some white people
How about
to give you other people this money.
what was that about their legacy? He said.
The University of Georgia recognizes the contributions of these and other enslaved individuals and honors their legacy.
Honors their legacy.
I take my honor in the form of cash.
Yeah. How about you honor their legacy by upping your minimum pay for people that have been here? Like everyone.
I don't even want. I want $20. It should be a good job working for the university. I want black people who pick up stuff to be making $20 an hour.
Yeah.
At the university.
People act like 20 is so undoable.
Isn't that like
It's not
35?
true.
Is that $41,000?
Yes, $41,000 a year.
Yeah, no, that $41,000 is a fine salary for a sanitation worker.
And if you give it to
And
them,
it's
the
doable.
county gets it back.
The county gets it back. It comes back. Crime goes down. Everyone wins. The test scores go up. Property values go up. Like I don't want to know. Like everyone wins. $20 an hour is like, and that's in Athens, Georgia. I think if you go to like bigger, higher price cities, it should be more. But like, you shouldn't work picking up stuff at the University of Georgia for under $20 an hour. It's a
You
real
shouldn't
wage,
have-
full time, like for decades. If you work at the University of Georgia for 5 years in any capacity, doing any job, you should be making $20 an hour, even if it caps out there. It's not that much money
No.
for working. You've been working.
And let's talk about the people who are doing those jobs and then at night have to go do another job
Because they don't
just
make
to
real
survive.
money. Yeah, and Jared Morehead makes $800,000. I think he could do his job for $300,000 a year.
I mean,
I think he could.
300. Look, we used to pay the president $200,000 a year flat. This man is making more than a man who has to run,
Yeah.
no matter how well they run it,
Yeah,
run the country.
The idea is that like.
And I bet his separation package when he leaves.
The idea is that here's the deal. As a president, a lot of your job is fundraising, and since you're fundraising millions of dollars, you should be getting $1 million. The problem with that is it ends up rewarding white supremacy.
Yeah.
It ends up rewarding white supremacy, and like fundraising shouldn't be thought of as like a commission. Like you're not a president of a university on commission.
Yeah.
So like, so the fact that he's fundraising millions of dollars for the university means he's fundraising millions of dollars for the university, which owes black people. Not that like he should get like a commission of the money he makes.
People.
Relative to this is why occupations that earn concern and attract money get paid more money because they earn concern and attract money. But it's not because they're more important. It's just that they happen to be proximal to money, like bankers. Yeah.
It's so interesting to disconnect between this letter and what the community experiences, what his employees experience. Like if I'm a university employee and I see this letter,
No, this guy's a jerk.
yeah.
The maintenance workers is like, I got to clean 5 buildings.
Yeah.
All right. So, as president of this institution, I know the university has done what is right. How do you know so much? Like I study epistemology and I don't know this. As president of this university, I know the university has done what is right and has treated the remains of the individuals at Baldwin Hall with dignity and respect. No, you think this.
Okay.
Obviously, it's controversial. Obviously, it's controversial. Like, you don't know. Like, this is a knowledge claim. This is why I think he wrote it himself.
I won't lie. As I listen to this, I hear nothing but privilege.
This is why.
And I'm not even specifically talking about white privilege.
No, this is just like.
This is just privilege.
People don't know, I used to be president of the students at the University of California. So I've been in rooms with the chancellor of the University of California. I was president, the student body president of Berkeley for an itty bitty time.
You may have heard of it.
Yeah. So kind of a political hotbed institution. Anyway, so I was student body president of it back in the 90s. And so I did some meetings with the chancellor, both one-on-ones and with people, like when the chancellor's at meetings. Pretty much being the chancellor, being a president at a university like this is like being the Beatle. Like being like a beetle.
Yeah,
It's like every room you enter to just caters to you.
Well, and like
So I think like having been in that room and watching everyone else just cater to the chancellor in everything they do. This is a letter written by a guy who hasn't
who's used to walking in and having everything catered to him.
Yes.
I
know.
I know.
Sure.
I'm sure. I know that they were treated with dignity. Well, who gets to
We
define
did
dignity?
everything. No, you did what you thought of at the time. I am troubled. Sounds like a white woman now. I am troubled by the dedicated individuals who represent. I am troubled by the dedicated individuals who represent a broad diversity of perspectives. I'm troubled that the many dedicated individuals who represent a broad diversity of perspectives and backgrounds have been maligned and personally attacked for doing their jobs in a responsible manner. Well, so as a structural theorist, the problem might be the job. Right?
Yeah, what was the responsible manner?
What's the responsible manner? Like, maybe their jobs are structured to be white supremacist. Like, honestly, if your job, I suspect that diversity and inclusion and strategic university initiative, the whole job is like a white supremacist space, like shaped job. So anybody who does it doesn't really matter. They're paid good money to be like the black face of white supremacy.
And a lot of times unknowingly.
So I just thought they were just having this $200,000 a year job, $150,000 a year. So and personally attack. I'm very good like structural. I don't know Michelle Cook. Like I don't know her person. I just know the job. And what the job needs to be for the university to function as is. So if they've been personally attacked, well, honestly, she gets paid good money. So like, take it on the chin.
But if it's such a small group, what's with this about personal attacks?
I don't know. Look, I say anybody who makes over $100,000 needs to like grow a thicker skin about this.
Therapists exist. They like them.
Yeah. They just are priced out of poor people. So, but like you could.
I'm talking about for these people.
Yeah. All right. So personally attacked for doing their jobs in a responsible manner. All right. So despite what some might claim, our faculty are free to pursue research of their choosing and to seek external grants for their support. That's like a veiled.
If you understand academia, you understand the risk that faculty take, especially non-tenured faculty.
Yeah, I'm not like I
You're
got
an
a
example.
target, like right now. Like it's a 50-50 chance I'm not kicked out for telling the truth and giving people other. It's a 50-50. At least my true opinion, and my true opinions are at least as like All right, so I've talked to faculty who don't feel free to pursue research, and one of the things about being the boss is like people don't always tell you the truth. So like maybe it's the case that you should pump your brakes a little bit and ask the question. Maybe people aren't telling me the truth about the pressures they're getting.
And why? Why have I created a situation where they don't feel like they can tell me the truth?
I don't know. Our faculty are free to pursue. Okay. So libelous claim in the letter that I would. Okay. The libelous claim in the letter that I would ever have said, the university does enough for black people. It's funny because you end this letter pretty much saying the university does enough for black people. Is equally preposterous. I care deeply about the University of Georgia, our faculty, staff, and students, and I remain committed to fostering the diverse and inclusive environment for every member of our community, including the black ones for whom I've done enough for. Okay, that last bit I added. And I remain committed to fostering a diverse and inclusive environment for every member of our community. We are in the midst of a fundraising campaign to benefit the institution. You don't need to. Okay, so take out a bond, like you build a building. Take out a bond, and or just like fire some white people. Can
we talk about how
there's enough money swirling around? You don't need to fundraise for this. There's enough money swirling around. Repurpose the money that is, but that means telling some of your friends that they might get their feelings hurt. Yes.
Can we talk about the fact that this was about slaves?
Yes.
Now we know that here only one group were slaves. All of his response is about everybody.
Like, I want to do something for black people. I want something for black people because black people are slaves and you are black people. You're a special black people descendants of slaves. So don't send too many people here. Well, maybe only one of the reasons I got in was because I had an African name.
They probably were not expecting.
I'm a student, so all I had to do was score well on tests and write well. Yeah. All right. So, okay. So we're in the midst of fundraising campaign to benefit the institution. We are actively raising funds for scholarships to meet legal requirements.
There's that legal again.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not going to jeopardize our legal status just to help black people. While we are not permitted to provide race-based undergraduate scholarships, we have created 400 need-based scholarships, need-based Georgia committed scholarships over the last 2 years. These scholarships are transforming lives across the state.
400 scholarships are transforming lives across the state?
Is this 400 scholarships for UGA, right?
Yeah.
Oh, but it's just across the state. By enabling students with significant financial need the opportunity to attend. All right, so students with significant financial need aren't applying for things. Like, they need you to go out and find them because they're, like, too busy being poor and broke.
Yeah, poor people aren't thinking when they graduate about college.
They're
They're
thinking,
how do
what is
I...
the recommendation? And, no. All right, so all right, this is the last sentence, last paragraph. Going forward, with the support of our governing board, the University System of Georgia Board of Regents, I remain focused on advancing the mission of this university. I got to get this right. I get so heated when I get to this last phrase. I remain focused on advancing the mission of this institution as I have done tirelessly for the last 6 years. Sincerely, Jer R. Morehead. As I have done tirelessly for the last 6 years. And this is an issue concerning justice for the descendants of slaves. He's suggesting that he's worked as hard as the people he's trying to bury. He's paving over. Or if he's not, it's because he's working harder, because he's working tirelessly.
I'm just trying to
Would
see.
you say you're working like a slave?
Not at $800,000 a year he ain't.
Working at not because when you say you're working like a slave, you can't say that not because it's déclassé. You can't say that because you're not working as hard as slaves work.
Yeah. So, ain't nobody whipped you for being late with that report.
No. So that's the letter. I'm going to put a link to both letters in the copy. It's not even like the activist letter is written so much better than this one. I think he wrote this one himself.
That feels like he was in his feelings.
Look, here's the deal. People are going to tell me, as a black man, I've been fired from a job or two. Really? I talk about that. And I remember the first time I was let go, I was in my early 20s. I was working, and executive said, I wrote, it was something very nice, because back then I was nicer. I wrote an email, and my job was like editing the executives, my boss's emails. And then I wrote a different email to a different boss. And I just said, like, all right, so I see these things, and I think we can improve the lives of, I think it was some of the black workers or something like that. It was something like that. Anyway, I got told I took the wrong tone with an executive. And I was 23 at the time. I was told I took the wrong tone with the executive. That actually meant something to me at the time. I was like, maybe I should think about my tone with executives. And the executive
I love your tone with executives.
Now that I'm 41,
yeah,
I think I have the right tone. And
I think you inspire other people to have the right tone.
I think executives need to, because we live in a democracy, not an oligarchy. So I think our executives need to be taken down a peg.
Yeah, this idea.
So people are going to say, like, I'm sure someone's going to look at this at the university and try to find something to fire me for. Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
The hubris.
You're going to fire me for speaking to a white guy who wrote a mediocre letter like he's a white guy who wrote a mediocre letter.
I think mediocre is being given in that letter.
This is an awful letter.
Yeah, no.
Like, I'm going to need, if you, like this, and that's my opinion on my private.
I feel like
I feel like I could teach this as an awful letter in a communications department. Like, I think so. Like a communications faculty, and I know some who would look at this letter and they could do a seminar on, like, we need a better class of executives because the ones we produce. I'm sure that wherever he got his whatever degrees, at least one of his professors would look at this and go, like, you can't. Like, this isn't the way you.
I had a boss who used to look at me and go, the agreement was I reviewed his letters to his whole staff as a whole. Right. And we had a rule that you can't, like, write the letter
Right.
I'll come, I'll read it, and I would go back to him and go, okay, now that you get all that off your chest, delete everything there and start over.
So another letter writing job I had, I used to write letters of recommendation for Barack Obama. I wrote very good letters of recommendation for Barack Obama. But
It's so interesting because I like to see what your letters today would look like.
No, I wrote letters of recommendation for students too.
Well, no, I'm talking about for Barack.
Oh, for Barack. That was a problem because I wanted to write more letters. Like there was, I'll talk about that for a different time. But yeah, I wrote letters. This one's a very well written letter. That's the one written by the students. The one by Morehead, and I'm talking about not just content. I'm talking about like argumentative structure, and fidelity to the truth, like in every way.
He didn't even really address the argument about the wages of like a $15 wage
Oh,
at
right.
all.
There's so many things he dodged in that letter.
He just thinks that we pay them enough.
I don't think he read. I swear, I don't think he read the previous letter.
Which
he
he-
just responded.
That's
Like, oh, they're getting uppity.
That's what I move. So what I think the problem is going to be is he actually thinks he deserves 20 times more than they do.
What I mean, so socially, that's a problem.
So they make $24,000 a year. So four times that gets you 100,000, and then 8 times that 4. So he makes 24,000 times more than the maintenance workers. 24 times, not 24,000 times. But he thinks he actually works
I guarantee
24 times as hard as they do. That's a problem.
Let me tell you,
He
as
thinks
an
he
administrator,
works- yeah.
we I look at people and say, do these hands look like they were meant for a hard day's work?
No.
Yeah, no. So everyone should be making what the administration is making because
Right.
I assure you they're
And that
doing
means
less.
the administration needs to come down.
Yeah.
And if you,
I mean, if they want to write
and they'll
18
say like we'll lose talent if we
are
we
fair.
drop them. I don't.
That's not okay.
I don't know if you'll lose that much talent. I can find someone for $300,000 who might.
Matthew
have
and I,
kind of
once again,
same
as we
talent.
are known for saying, Matthew and I would have written that letter for less than $100,000 each.
Discount or but the thing is, his real talent isn't in running the university. It's making white donors who might be white supremacists comfortable. And with that, thank you for your time. I'll see you next week. Show this to your friends. And especially if you have people in universities, all university and NAACP chapters should be reading this letter and thinking about this. And I'll see you next week. Peace.